Now we should be live there now very shortly.
I see it there now on the old Facebook. Yeah.
Excellent.
I'll share it away there now as well. So
grand. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Thanks so much for that.
No worries.
Cool. Okay, so guys, today is the 4th week of my live chat series that I started doing. And this week I've moved from Instagram over to Facebook. Mainly because a lot of Rory's followers will be on Facebook, so it probably made more sense to do it on Facebook for him. So Rory, for anyone who doesn't know, he's an accomplished singer-songwriter from Clonmel, County Tipperary. He was described by Duke Special as a beautiful songwriter with some set of pipes on him. That's a compliment.
Yeah.
He's done lots of touring and he's released his own debut album last year, and most recently he released a video from that album. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, more an EP. It's only got kind of 6 tracks on it, but I wouldn't go so far as to say an album, but a collection of tunes.
Yeah, I always feel like EP doesn't sound as professional, so like, why not just call that an album?
Yeah, true. You're right too.
Do you know? So, Rory, tell us a little bit about yourself then. Like, how did you end up in this life of music? How did you end up in music? Yeah, how did you get there?
So I suppose I kind of picked up guitar through my cousin when he was 3 years older than me, and he was learning guitar, and I kind of wanted to do the same thing as about 12-year-old or so. Then I was going into first year in high school in Clonmel and got like, I don't know, was it 5 or 10 lessons off a teacher in there called Tom Kaara, who kind of just taught me how to, basically got me on the road so I could start teaching myself. So after that, you kind of just start looking up songs and trying to figure things out. And
was that guitar lessons?
That was guitar lessons, but at the same time I was always singing, you know, so it was I'd probably consider myself more of a singer than a guitarist.
Okay, yeah.
So it's but they both kind of came hand in hand at the same time. So that worked quite well for a while, and that led me on to the next thing, onto the next thing, onto the next thing, and here we are 16, 18 years later, still at it, picking away. And actually longer even.
Yeah, it's mad when you start counting up the years, you're like, starts making you feel old, isn't it?
Yeah.
And were you like one of the kids in school who did all the musical theatre shows and that kind of thing, or did you go a different route?
Well, my primary school was a small little school with only probably less than 100 in the whole school in Kilcash, just the bottom of Shielhaman, and they had Oliver Twist. I remember being Mr. Bumble in that for Oliver Twist, singing "One boy for sale." That always sticks in my mind. But yeah, then in high school in Clonmel, that went into back to the 80s. So I had a small speaking role and singing songs with maybe 1 or 2 kind of solo songs. So I wasn't the lead roles or anything, but I was always heavily involved in it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were in school, did you have any band or anything like that? Was there any kind of outlet for doing that kind of thing when you were in school?
I suppose first kind of band that comes to mind when I'm thinking of gigging, like actually going out and playing some gigs live, because it was always kind of solo, you know. Did my first live gig at 14 or so.
Yeah.
But then I'd say it was maybe 18, 19, around that age, possibly a little older, when I was asked to join this band as a singer and rhythm guitarist. They're called Wagon Wolves, kind of a few lads from Clonmel. Wagon Wolves, terrible name. I know, terrible name.
I like it. Anything with animals in it is good for me.
Yeah. But so yeah, we kind of did a few gigs, and that was my first kind of step into playing with a band and other fellow musicians.
Deadly, yeah. I know when I was in school, I really looked up to all the people who were in bands, but like none of my direct friends were like really into bands and that kind of thing. They were more musical theatre, and they didn't like any of the same music as me, so I didn't really discover like the music I'm into now until kind of a bit later, until I left school. But I remember like there used to be kind of a regular event on in the local arts centre, where they'd have young bands being able to come and play like battles of the bands and things like that.
Cool.
And I used to love it. Like I don't know if you know, do you know Sive?
Sive.
She's got red hair. She's like up from Kildare area.
I don't think so.
She's like a kind of a
Excuse me.
folk artist. She's really, really good. You should check her out. But she was in a band called the Hells. They were like a three-piece girl band. And I was like, they were like performing like kind of punk rocky stuff. Like, do you know a band called the Yeah Yeah Yeahs?
Yeah, I love that.
Sorry, are you okay there? You're
Yeah,
dying.
I swallowed water down the wrong side, so I'm starting to cough.
You're grand. You're grand. No bother.
Apologies,
I
not
can
COVID.
feel a
Don't
bit of a
worry.
frog in my throat as well. I know, yeah. Every time you have any bit of a sniffle at all, you're like,
I'm trying to hide it. And that makes
yeah.
it worse then.
But yeah, I like really looked up to those bands, but I didn't kind of start my own band till I was around 20, like so.
Where
We're lucky.
where was your school?
It was up in Newbridge in the Holy Family up in Kildare.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm from
So
Kildare.
what was your first gigging experience around the age 20 then?
Like I remember when I was around maybe 15, 16 or something. We I was in transition year, so I must have been 16. And we decided to put on like a live kind of event gig. There was any kind of the local bands came and played at it, and I actually I wrote songs like when I was in school. Like I had
Cool.
songs written, but I just never had a band to perform them with, and so I put a band together for this show. And we were like bloody blazing squad on the stage. Like I swear there was about 10 of us. We had, jeez, we went all out.
Nice.
But that was like my first experience playing in a band. But I don't know, it just didn't kind of continue, and then I picked it up again when I was about 20. So you're lucky that you kind of got into that at a
Yeah, oh, I do consider myself very lucky to have had the just the guts to just to go up and play guitar and sing a few tunes, no matter what it might be, whatever way it turned out. But I was lucky, had a positive experience, and just kept me going from there, I suppose.
And were you writing from a young age? Because I know, like, if for anyone who doesn't know Rory, he is a songwriter. He gigs as a cover musician as well, and he also releases his own music too, which is really cool. But
Yeah.
when did
I
you get
suppose
into that?
I think about 12 I started writing songs.
Yeah,
um,
I was the same actually.
excuse me, sorry. I must just take a
Do
drink
you
of
want to
water
do you
here.
want to like mute yourself and just take a big cough? That's probably the best thing to do. Is like,
Exactly.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. So yeah. Oh,
Okay.
I think he's ready now.
That's
There
a
we go.
bit better now.
That's all right. I know the feeling. Trust me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I started about 12 years old, kind of just doing the old listening to other folk songs and what they're kind of like, and you kind of just like, I suppose a good example of someone who started writing that way was Damien Dempsey. I
Yeah.
heard he started like just taking all the Bob Dylan songs, and he would just take all the chord structures and the melody and everything, and he would just put his own words to it then. But my I didn't exactly go down that route, but I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was just forming these full songs. I have like, thousands of songs in all these little booklets and all
Yeah.
things from way back when, but like some terrible, terrible stuff, of course. But it's still fun to look back on them
You have
and
to write a lot of shit to get to the good
a,
stuff, right?
a lot of shit, a lot of shit. And you keep writing shit too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
It's
don't,
just a part of the process.
yeah, yeah. You can't just come out with gold all the time.
Do you remember
Rarely even.
Sorry?
Rarely even you can just come out. Even nowadays, you still got
Hmm.
to keep writing a lot of average stuff before you get to some stuff you really feel worthy of throwing out into the world.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's like it's something that you have to exercise, isn't it? And write
Exactly.
regularly, and
It's a craft. It's a
yeah,
craft. Yeah.
you spend a lot of time kind of perfecting that craft, and learn taking things from your life experience and allowing that to kind of mold your songwriting style and the kind of what you want to write about and that kind of thing. And has
When
your
you were writing, were you
Mm.
writing with an instrument?
I've played keyboard ever since I was about 2, like, but like badly, like, I never got like lessons or anything. I never bothered I never saw myself as an instrumentalist. I only saw myself as a singer. So I used the keyboard to write like chord progressions, and I literally was just banging down block chords. And then I remember when I first the very first band rehearsal I had with the band that ended up being called She Speaks, and we released an album and all that. I remember like I had my keyboard and I just like banged down those block chords, and I was like trying to describe to them like the aesthetic that I wanted, because I obviously didn't play any other instruments. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I want the guitar to go like this, and
Uh,
like that kind of thing.
yeah,
So
yeah.
and that was fun. Like that was like when the first time I heard the whole band playing my song, I was like, this is amazing. This is so cool. Do you know?
Quite a surreal experience.
Do you remember the first time you showed someone one of your songs, and do you remember how they reacted?
Um, I think my sister is probably one of the first people, or well, me and my cousin who showed me songs was we were the first ones to kind of start challenging each other to do certain things. You know, write a rap song or write a certain style
Yeah.
or whatever it was. But I remember I would have played some songs to my sister before, and she recently reminded me that. Which I don't remember it, but because I was so young, but
Yeah.
she was told me about how we once kind of wrote together, and so she was trying her hand at doing the lyrics as well, and I basically just told her she was shit, and I said I'm going to go my own way now
You're
if you
just
don't
bluntly
mind.
honest.
Yeah. But yeah, no, but they were anyone I at that age, they're normally going to be very supportive and try and keep bringing out the best of you. So I was quite lucky with my family and my parents, and everyone around me was always, even up to this day, are still so extremely supportive. Well, especially seeing as my father is an artist, so
Oh yeah, Stephen was
I've
actually only telling me about that recently. I didn't know. I don't know his work at all.
yeah, you can see it on a lot of stuff online. I think
What's his name?
Owen, so Eoin, or Eugenio is the Italian version he likes to go by
Oh, very fancy.
for art. Yeah,
Exotic.
yeah, exactly. And so you can see oindel.com,
Okay.
EOINDEL.com. You might see a lot of real life essays, sculptures, all this kind of stuff. Like,
That's interesting. So, you know the way people always ask us, like us meaning musicians. So, did you come from a musical family?
not at all. No, there's not really any music in my family. Apart from just a few singers at late nights,
Yes.
but
Family gatherings and all
even
the
that's
rest.
rare enough. Like, it's at this moment it'd probably be only me and maybe one cousin, or if there's a big group of us, very few who will actually be end up singing a few tunes. So yeah, it's interesting. There is art in my family, but
Yes.
not music so much. How about yourself?
There's a creative streak there. My mum and dad and nobody in my family were musicians apart from, I don't know if you're into trad music at all, but my mother's first cousin is a guy called Jerry O'Connor. He would be quite famous in the trad world. He's a banjo player and a fiddle player.
Cool.
Now, he would have had no direct influence on me because I didn't know him really growing up. I would have met him the odd time at kind of family gatherings and funerals and that kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah.
I actually had the pleasure of singing with him. Well, it was a weird time to have the pleasure of singing when it was
But
for
a
it was
funeral.
at a funeral, a family funeral. But
Yeah.
it was a lovely experience to play with him because he is, so renowned in his area. But other
Cool.
than that, no, like I just have to say the same as you. Like my parents were very supportive of me. Like they just like they drove me to every audition I went to. They drove me to any show rehearsals. They encouraged me to like take part in things, So um they really made me feel like a little superstar. I think that's kind of important, isn't it? When you're
Building up that
young, like
confidence.
yeah, definitely you kind of need that support because I know there's some families who might not view like anything in the kind of creative world as kind of like a real job, and I suppose they worry that will my child have a good life if they go down this route. But at the end of the day, money, it matters to an extent, but I think happiness is the most important thing, and that sounds kind of cliche, but it's so true.
Yeah,
You just have to give in to what makes you happy in the end, don't you?
I strongly agree. Whether it be kind of contentment rather than happiness, nearly, it's
Yeah.
a search for meaning. Meaning, I think more maybe more meaning than happiness is kind
Yeah.
of what brings me happiness, but it'll also bring a whole lot of other emotions along with it at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the father being in that situation all his life, they weren't so much supportive in the fact of pushing me into doing this or pushing me into doing that. They always just kind of let me do what I want and were supportive in that sense, So even when I wanted to be a musician, stupidly, and be a poor struggling artist.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm grateful for it. I'm still delighted.
I don't know if you agree with this or not, but like in a sense, part of that is true. Like sometimes we are struggling financially, but it really comes down to kind of, as you say, meaning what's important to you and what makes you happy. Did you ever work any other jobs? Did you ever work a retail job or anything like that?
Yeah, I have done my hand at most things kind of growing up. Like, so I worked in call centers, which I think is very good for anyone to do at any point in their life. I was technical support for like broadband and phones, so I was helping people with that kind of thing. I've worked
Why
in
so? Why you kind of had a
just for
spark in your eye when you
them
said
to
that?
be able to understand like the those kind of people, how stressful and tough those jobs can be, and when you're actually calling in into those situations, I will always be extremely pleasant to someone, even after
Yeah.
even air. Like I hate the company air, but I have them with my phone, because you're always waiting for like 2 hours to get through to someone, because there's just
Mm.
no one working for them anymore. And so like, but when I got through eventually, I was really nice to the person. They sorted me out the problem, because I understand that they're constantly getting berated by abuse. So
Yeah.
it's just something you got to keep in mind. You know, I've done the retail. I worked in off license, worked in framing shops. But I've maybe over the past 10, 15 years, I've done a couple of years worth of jobs, but I've always had the music as the
Mm.
side, or now, as in the last good few years, it's my main job. You know, I'm lucky enough to I'm sustaining myself through music, and it's how I make my main income is playing gigs or and things like that. So I'm extremely lucky in that sense, and I understand
Yeah.
how grateful I need to be for being able to do that. You know.
Definitely, and like everything that you do in life, kind of molds you and you can learn from. So even those crappy retail jobs that we may not like when we're in them, or whatever the job may be, like you learn something from them. You learn things like hard work and respect for other people and respect for yourself and lots of different things. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's all part of it. So tell me, Rory, when did you first put your band together? When was like the that setup?
Which band?
Okay, yeah, you probably had a loads of different
I've
lineups over
had,
the
yeah,
years.
so I've had like kind of, so most commonly I play solos, but then I've had duos or three pieces, four, five pieces, and then the original bands and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And so from when you're doing your original gigs, so would you play as a solo artist mainly?
No, I suppose more original ones now. I kind of put together a super group of sorts, like, you know, kind
Yeah.
of
An
pick and mix.
ensemble.
Yeah, pick and mix
Mm.
the best musicians I can find around. You know, so I'm very lucky to have some of like unbelievable people playing my music, and then it always makes the tracks. It takes it to a different level, you know. So my
Yeah.
gigs solo, and I normally do cover gigs like on a Friday or Saturday. Keeps me going. But then if I want to have a really good night where maybe I might not make any money about, but I might be able to pay the band, and maybe I'll make a couple of quid off selling a few CDs or something. But it's the experience of having that 6 or 7 piece band playing your own original music to
Mm.
however many people every time. It's the most special of all the gigs.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've chatted to a few people about like the difference between performing like as a solo act and then having a band around you, and like usually people say there's elements of both that they like, but they usually say about there's something really magical about getting in a room with people who embrace your creations and
Mm.
help you evolve them into these really interesting and broad and like deep tracks.
They actually become part of the
Mm,
creation. You know, they
yeah.
create stuff themselves within it, which is for the most part they usually do, which is great. Like absolutely super.
Yeah, and I know back in the really early days of when I first started a band, I felt really protective over my songs, and when I finally embraced the whole idea of collaboration, I was like blown away with the results. And guess what happened? We wrote an album. So, and like it took a good few years for to find the right people that you kind of click with in that way. Sometimes you kind of end up with people that you just might not click on a musical level, but when you do find that lineup, it's so special, and it's like they're like your other family almost, aren't they, when
Yeah,
you're in a band?
very true. Yeah, you said She Said was that your band that you
There
wrote
was
an
a
album
band
with?
called She Said actually, but we were called She Speaks.
She Speaks. Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah, because She Said are from Cork, aren't they? But they dissolved recently enough. Great
Yeah.
band. But She Speaks, are they? When you were in your kind of 20s, you did that and wrote an album together, was it?
Yeah, like we released the album in 2016 actually, so the band was together for about 8 or 9 years, but we only wrote the newest lineup of the band was the band members that we wrote the album with. So
Cool.
for the last 3 years of us being together, we ended up breaking up just after the album released. Because as you know yourself, there can be a lot of tension among bands and personal things come in and people can't commit anymore and
True, yeah.
that kind of thing. So what happened? So it was quite devastating for me actually at the time. It was almost like a breakup. I remember it took me a good while to get over that my band wasn't happening anymore, Do you
Becomes
feel
such a big part of your life, and every there, as you said, a second family. Like
yeah.
I had that with a band called Kaara, where from back in Coláiste Stefan Nefa in Cork when I first came out of high school. That's where I did that music sound and management course, and I met this guy called Simon Daly. Goes by Namas now as an artist, superb guitarist, songwriter, producer, just a really, really great musician and a really good friend. So 4 or 5 years after we had finished that course, he got in touch with me and asked if I wanted to go tour a bit in America, and drove a kind of Paddy's Day period. So the two of us kind of went over and we had such a great time, and the energy was just so amazing. We had such, like, over there there's so much music and it's so vast that I think the quality kind of dips quite a lot. We kind of did the tri-state area around Pennsylvania, kind of that kind of place, Philadelphia mainly.
Yeah.
But so when they saw us, who, not to brag, but we were playing very, very good music,
good
and
quality, yeah.
yeah, and we were rocking out, and he was doing these massive solos, and we were both drinking and smoking and getting into it and having a great time. But everyone watching us was just like, their reaction to us was amazing. They were all blown away. But so then when we went back again next year, we brought this guy called Warren Tybee, who's a great bass player. Three of us had great gigs. Then we ended up bringing in a drummer called Connor Sloan, a brilliant little drummer, and then we ended up next year bringing in it's less than a year away, bringing this guy called Jake Kaliach, keyboard player and a singer and a songwriter himself as well. So then that 5-piece became this band called Kaara, which is just
great name for a band, actually.
It was after I got a voicemail from Simon one time about, we were trying to come up with a name for the band, and he was drinking this bottle of wine, and it was actually, so it was Kaara rather than Mochara,
okay.
as in not the C, but it was an old Aztec saying for basically everybody was the same. You no matter your skin color, everything like that, everyone was just friend. Exactly. Yeah. So I like that sentiment, and we said we'll go for it. But yeah, that 5-piece band was together for 2-3 years. We had a super time, but then, and some great gigs, and we released some music together, original music and videos. But then we with drummer moved away to Lanzarote, and slowly kind of it dissolves in that sense. When one person goes away, it was such a close-knit group that we didn't, I don't think we really wanted to keep going, so we just kind of dissolved, and we're all doing our own little things in music now. So it's still good, still all great friends, but that's just the way it works sometimes, I suppose.
Yeah, it's funny because we were the same. Like when my band broke up, it just didn't feel like I actually tried to find a new lineup for the band for about a year maybe after the band broke up, and I had auditioned. I got a really good bass player called Mark Dempsey. He plays in a couple of rock bands up in Dublin, and he's a kind of a session player. And Dara O'Hare is a drummer. I don't know if you know that guy either. They're both a bit older than me now, but they're amazingly talented, and I was really, really lucky to have them. And they hung on with me, and they helped me audition lots of guitarists. But I couldn't get a guitarist that just it felt right with. So I was like, I need to leave this project behind. I need to maybe look towards doing something new. So
and what did you go on to?
I still haven't put together an original band. So that was, I suppose, it was 2016 when the band broke up. So it was in 2017 sometime when I started trying to put the band together. Actually, it was probably later than that, because for a good while, as I said, I was grieving that my band was broke up, if I'm honest. So I think it could have been a year, if not more. And then I started the search for the band, got the two lads, and then went for about a year auditioning guitarists. So
you kind of start going into more the kind of setting up the vocal studio and the teaching side of aspect and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's funny because I worked in retail for years and years and years. That was kind of like my real job. I've said this in a couple of the other chats with people. But then there was something that wasn't quite sitting with me with the retail. I really loved parts of it. I loved elements of it, but I just was something missing. I needed to go back to music. So I ended up meeting Stephen McGrath. And
great bass player.
Yes, great bass player from Crow Black Chicken. And it kind of happened just at the right time where I was moving to Clonmel to live with him, and he said to me, "Why don't you go for the whole singing teacher thing?" And I was like, "But I don't know, like I'm not sure, like I don't know how to go about it." So from there, I started my training, my teacher training, and different things, and kind of started growing the teaching. And I've really focused a lot more on the teaching. Do you teach yourself actually?
Um, Only when people ask me.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of acoustic guitar students. I've never actually taught singing except for a couple. So when someone asks me for some advice and stuff, I'll
Yeah.
give them some tips and just posture and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't say I have done a whole lot of it. Nowhere near to the level of yourself, say for example. You know.
Yeah, I feel I don't know about you, but like I know there's something else that we can talk about is you decided at some point along the line to go and do your vocal grades. And you did them with
Yeah.
Riam, wasn't it?
In the Cork Academy of Music, Ryan Morgan, I did it with. Is it the? Jeez, it's not.
The
AB.
Royal
It's either ABRSM or the Royal Music
Oh yeah,
Academy or
yeah,
something like
one of
that.
those, yeah. Or London
Um,
College of Music. Was it musical theatre or more classical?
it was. I think it was yeah. It wasn't so much classical. No, it was pop
Yeah.
pieces. So it was kind of rock school. I think is actually the technical
Oh,
was what it
okay.
called rock school. But yeah. So that was a good experience. I had done it before in Coláiste Stefan Neifau when I was just out of school, 2009 or 10, and that was like grade 3, grade 4, and then when I went to started the Cork Academy of Music up in the North Mon about 2 years ago, they pushed me to do the same thing. So I
Mm.
kind of just did grade 5, and your man Ryan said, let's just do grade 8. I think you're able for it. So
Oh wow.
I just went and like I went and did the grade 8. I got a distinction in it, and
Very good.
I was like,
Congrats.
but I still don't consider myself a grade 8 singer,
Yeah.
and that's because I don't have all every scale along the way, because I was able to jump so much grades, and I was able to sing the song so well, and once you
Yeah.
know you can cheat the system so well, I can get almost 100%,
Yeah.
but without getting into some of the real nitty and gritty stuff, which is unfortunate, I think, but it's still a nice thing to be able to say, oh, we have an old grade 8.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's brilliant, and I'm sure that it's really helped kind of mold your technique and help your voice last when you've been gigging a lot. Like how much would you be? How much were you gigging when you were kind of gigging
Yeah.
regularly?
Um, Jeez, I could have been doing 5 or 6, five gigs a week sometimes.
Really? Wow.
But now it's more. Now I am lucky. I'm one of the few people I know who is still gigging at the moment.
Yeah.
So I am keeping that one. Although it's a lot less money than it was before.
Oh God. Yeah.
It's still I'm still consider myself very lucky to be one of the people who still have some kind of an income through it and be able to play too. There's a stage there for 3-4 months where I wasn't able to play gigs, so that was a great
Mm.
relief to be able to start playing again every week. It's cathartic in a way.
Totally. I love that word cathartic, and it's come up over and over again in different conversations. Like,
Mm.
and I think for any creative person, and even I suppose for people who maybe aren't into the creative side of things, but maybe are more like sports or whatever else other activity is, when you don't have your outlet, it can be very depressing. It can really bring you down. It's like you need that outlet to kind of feel like you're you,
Absolutely, yeah.
you know?
Outlet's a good word for it too. Yeah, it's getting the feelings out of you.
Yeah. It's like it's therapy in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So, let me see. Tell me a little bit about your performing experience abroad.
Abroad. So I told you about going to the States. Let's see, more recent. Excuse me. More recent ones.
You were due to tour this year, weren't you? But it got cancelled because of COVID.
Yeah, I went. I
Yeah.
went over to South Africa, and I actually did go over there because we all the gigs were still going ahead, and
Mm,
it wasn't even in South Africa at that stage. So
right.
we ended up going over, but then we cancelled the gigs ourselves, and we said we'll just come back and do it again another time. Still an amazing trip. Strange seeing such a beautiful country in like Cape Town and George and stuff like that, but in the
Yeah.
situation of COVID was a bit of a different vibe. We'll go back again and do it. I was supposed to go to Germany too, with my girlfriend Leah, and another couple called Keelan and Kenny and Sarah Ryan. Sarah was actually on your show, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was last week. I think it was. Yeah.
So we were due to go to Germany together,
Wow.
which again we'll put off, and we'll do that next year or something, you know. But I did just in February of this year. I did get to go to Canada and play with my good friend Mike Sherratt, who supported me in my tour in Ireland when I did a national tour for the EP basically release. I kind of did it like 8 dates around Ireland and doing some of the top venues like Roisin Dove and Whelan's and stuff like that. But then I went over there and he helped me get gigs over there, and I was supporting him, and just had a great time really. To be honest, it was a nice gigs, a nice country. People were into it, so I came away with a positive experience overall.
Isn't it fantastic, like when you get such a positive experience, especially going abroad? I know I've heard that the Germans love any music from Ireland, like they just lap it up.
Eat it up, they can't get enough.
I just had a little peek there over onto the Facebook page, and we have a couple of comments.
Telling me to get off the camera. All right, see you later.
No, actually, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name right. Is it Evine or Evan? It's a girl, I think, from the picture. She said, "This is really interesting, folks. Think I've learned more about you from this. In the years we spent together in CSN. Great to hear you." So someone you went to CSN with, was it?
Oh, cool. Very good. I don't have the Facebook open, so I'll have to go check it out after the call.
And then Ryan Morgan asks, how do you convince, I love the way he uses the word convince people to join you in your project? That's a really good question.
Yeah, I suppose just tell them how great I am. Well, no, it's you build up a reputation through your gigs, and once you have some live videos and you build up a repertoire of good music. You know, you have to just have good music basically, and once you have that, you can get people to start joining you. You can get the best drummers, you can get the best guitarists, you can get people who are just good enough. You don't need the best, you can get someone who you just click with, or someone who sounds good, and just ask them nicely and tell them you're going to give them a bit of cash at the end of the day. And sometimes you don't even need that, but when you're up on the higher tier of musicians, I truly believe in you got to pay everyone for their work. So I would always be paying everybody, even if they didn't even want it or need it. I'd be insistent on making sure you're paid for your work, you know.
Oh my god, I went blank there now what I was going to say. Like with regards to like getting paid for like original music, like I know when I was in my band, we were still at the stage where we only had like a 40-minute set, so we were still playing like band nights and things like that. So we never played a gig where we like were charged at the door or anything, apart from our album launch and our single launch. So like, you know, and those gigs, the venues don't pay you for those gigs at all. You're doing a lot of gigs for free, essentially, kind of selling your soul a little bit, but it's kind of probably part of the process for most musicians. And like, how do you kind of manage that? You know, like would you be playing gigs like you're playing like a headline slot, or would you be playing kind of more band nights and things like that?
You mean in terms of being what kind of original gigs do I actually do? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm quite selective now in how, like, the last original real kind of shows I did was I suppose Canada, before kind of COVID shut down. I did a good 5 or 6 gigs there, but then before that, full band gigs, it was, I think September was my tour, so I had the big blowout then, and from that point on I was kind of more focused on writing material while you keep this other thing going on, spinning on this other plate of having this cover gigs go to make sure you can survive and eat and live. But outside of that, I would probably do a few solo gigs, or maybe a 2-piece gig of original music, or I might throw in a small 3 or 4 song, if I'm in the mood for it, original set within a cover gig, you know.
Yeah.
Or if someone asks for it, of course. But I don't do too much of it, because I think it's good to kind of just play the field right, you know. Not just, you can't play the same Cork City every Saturday night playing your original music, because no one's going to want to do that every week and turn up, you know.
You don't want to dilute the scene too much.
Yeah.
You kind of need to give them a little bit, and otherwise it just kind of gets like a
Exactly, yeah.
to put it bluntly, kind of.
That's it.
Yeah, it needs to be kind of more special, like, so that, you know, when they see you, they're really into it, and they're like, yes, I haven't seen them in ages, and I love this music. The first time I heard you singing, I was really blown away. I was like, I think it was up in the Gleesons, the song, the jam, like the
open
Gleesons
jam. Thank you so much. The feeling was mutual. I think you sang that night yourself with Steve on the guitar.
I might have, yeah.
Yeah, they're good still. Even through COVID, we were me and Richie and some of the boys have been meeting up over Zoom, and we'd get the guitars out, and because of you can't play at the same time over Zoom with the lag, so one person will play a song, everyone else might mute their mic, and they could play along if they wanted to, or they'll just listen and wait for their turn to sing a song, and then have the chats in between, because it's very much a community vibe, you know. I went to Richie and I asked him if he wanted to set that up, because I had seen that in Youghal there was so many of these open jam or open mic nights. It wasn't so much an open mic night, but it was just a lot of people sitting at a table, and people would come in and someone would sit down and play a song. And there was maybe 3 or 4 of these going on in Youghal, where my girlfriend's from. So I thought, bring it to Clonmel, where there wasn't anything like in that sense, that it was of just singing a normal song or pop song, but there was other ones that were trad nights. But there's a lot of musicians who don't know how to play trad, or don't like that sort of thing. So it was great to be able to bring something to the town that got younger musicians involved, and just playing, singing along with the guitar. Every night had different people. Could have 5 people, 10 people turn up. So that was a nice experience to watch people progress over the 3 years it's been running now, every Monday night, except for obviously due to COVID a bit of a delay in that.
Yeah, I really loved going to it. When I first kind of came to Clonmel, like myself and Stephen went to it a lot, and I just loved the kind of vibe, and it was really nice as well for me and for everyone else that was there to network and kind of get to know people, and just, as you said, the word community, it just had such a lovely feel, like, you know. And I always thought all the characters of the town came in, and you know, it was really good, and like there was so many different kinds of different types of musicians there singing like different songs. I heard a guy singing, like, I think Ed Sheeran one night doing a rap. Cool. You know, it was just really, really cool, and I remember just being so impressed, you know, with your voice. At that point, I didn't know how much kind of experience and things that you had going on behind the scenes, but when I found out, I was like, oh, this is great that he's like kind of doing all this with a voice like his.
Thanks so much.
I know you're probably getting like, can't you shut up now? I'm sick of hearing.
Oh no, go on.
No, but I really, really, really was. Honestly, I think you're one of the best male vocalists I've heard in Ireland.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate that.
Honestly. And when I first heard you, I remember thinking, I don't know if you checked out. Remember you were doing the live, and I like requested Rufus Wainwright.
Oh, I do remember that was one of the
Cigarettes and Chocolate Milk.
Yeah, I did.
Did you check out the song?
I did. It was a great song, but I didn't actually. I did very few lives after that. Actually, I only did a handful of lives altogether. But it was a good tune. I
just thought your voice was so like his. And I checked out, you were saying Foy Vance as well. I checked him out too, and I can really kind of hear the influence there. Have you been listening to him in a long time?
Yeah, he was someone I was lucky enough to go. I mentioned him to you because I had supported him in England. Okay. But his voice and his songwriting style got me straight away. You know, that's something that he had a big influence on me growing up.
Yeah, there's always like certain. Do you ever sing any Jeff Buckley actually?
Yeah, I'm a massive Jeff Buckley fan. Huge. Him and I think as in a conversation the other night, I was saying it's probably between him and Pavarotti for me are some of the 2 greatest, maybe the 2 best male vocalists in my opinion, for
love it.
Just how they could portray emotion through a song, and just their range. So they're the 2 that just really do it for me, you know.
So tell me, we'll start wrapping it up now, right? A little bit,
Okay.
but tell me maybe a little bit about your, I suppose, your influences for your EP, Making Shadows, and maybe about the process of being in the studio recording and then going on to record a video for one of the songs.
Okay. So I couldn't really speak to influences in particular on the EP because it's just the songs that I've written over. I just picked out six of the best songs I've written over the past few years, trying to keep it to some of the more modern ones that I had written more recently. But they've been influenced, you know, through my taste in music is extremely broad, from rap to classical to whatever you want to throw at me. There's very few stuff that I won't enjoy, you know. So I think the majority of that all has an influence on me. And to go on then it was the recording studio. In that particular time, I was dealing with some good friends out in Blarney, Stoneview Studios is what it was called. Keelan Kenny was the guitarist on some of the tracks, and he also worked there. So two boys out there, I recorded the whole album in maybe 2 weeks. I set myself a deadline of September. I said I want to have everything done and ready by September. This is in, say, 3 months previous to September. And I charted out all the songs, got the help of my lecturer in the Cork Academy of Music, Oliver C. Keane. Had him maybe kind of touch up 2 or 3 of the songs in a few chords here and there. So that kind of pushed me on to getting the the charting all ready for the musicians who I was going to bring in onto it, you know, because there's maybe 10 musicians on the album overall, the 6 tracks. So that went really well because I was already used to the studio from being in the band Kaara, who I mentioned before, Warren Tivey, a great bass player and a really good friend. He owns a studio called Clay Castle Recording Studios in Youghal. So I had a fair bit of experience in there, and even before that I had experiences in other studios around the country. So that's quite a big thing, to be able to not be kind of blown away or scared by the situation, and being able to bring the best out of yourself. Very much like look at us right now, where, you know, we're both in our bedrooms and we have mics that can pretty much do a lot of what you can do in this recording studio. Of course, you can't get to the high level of some of it, but you can put something together. And that experience went really well. All the musicians I had were all top end, already well used and versed in recording, so that went really well. Wrapped it up, got the CDs about the week the tour was due to start. So I was very lucky. Again,
they arrived on time,
just in time, you know. So I through my whole life I'd always been like, I don't have the songs yet, or I always came up with an excuse not to be releasing original material under my own name. This was because I'd done stuff through Kaara or whatever, thrown some stuff online.
Bit of a security blanket, do you think?
Yeah, it was. I think it was more. I was more just kind of fear of even unconsciously. So, you know, I probably didn't really look into it too much, but I just never really got around to doing it. Yeah. So I did it really fast. Was really happy with how it all came out. I'm sure if I spent years on it, I could have got it even better, but I didn't want to do that. So kind of fast, efficient, good product. Brought out in tour. Tour went quite well. As the video, then you were saying, so I went on to contact this guy called Ignace. Iggy, he's a really great videographer and / director. He had worked with this guy I'd seen, another friend, Patrick, called from Beyond the Wash. You might have heard him from Cork. He had a great video that like won some awards, and, you know, they put a lot of money into it. So I said to him, look, I have a small budget. What can we do something together for one of the songs? So I picked the last song on the album, which is the only song that's kind of more stripped back, no drums, just voice and guitars. And we said I want to do something for this, so I left it up to him. You know, I wanted to see how he would bring it to life in a way, because I would never been in that experience except for bit in Kaara. I had done a few things, but it's kind of more just kind of live videos, or someone else is always doing it, you know. So I said to him, you know, he came up with the storyboard and he just came up with the plan. Like, he came up with just it's basically quite a simple one woman in a house, and we went out and rented an Airbnb for the day, and we just shot the whole thing in one day. So it was very, very fast, and what came out of it was great for one day's work. For shooting, obviously it took him longer than to edit it, and the colouring and everything, like grading, all that kind of stuff.
I loved the shots of it. Like, it
looks amazing,
really well, yeah.
You know, and it may not be exactly what the story is in the song, you know. The story is more so kind of just a love story, you know. I wrote it kind of as a lullaby, trying to just a nice soft lullaby love story, but where he took the story then was kind of just a woman in a breakup, and the possibility at the end, you can see the hand up against the window, is there more to come. But that then, it would have been boring if you didn't have a bit of gritty to throw into the video. So yeah, I was really happy with how it came out, and there's so many other avenues now where I could go to do something for the next video, you know.
I think you've got so much, you've achieved so much, you know, over the years, and you've got a lot going for you, and your future is looking bright.
Thanks so much.
So maybe, what advice would you give to anyone? Like, I know Ryan, I think his name was asking about putting a band together, and you had kind of said, well, basically have a good product so that you can show the people, these potential band members, your music, so they can see what kind of vibe you're going for. So what advice would you give to somebody who is thinking of pursuing a songwriting career, or who just wants to get into songwriting or start a band? Any advice for that?
For songwriting in particular is it's just a craft, and you have to write every day. So you have to sit down at a table and write for half an hour about how the sky is blue, and how the grass is turning into gravel, or how fishes are jumping through your window. Just as I think a good way to start is excuse me, a good way to start is what I like. It's like vomiting lyrics. So it's where you're just writing, and you don't stop, and you're not using punctuation. You're
free flow, right?
Free flow, exactly. So I think it's if you come up with,
I like your description better though.
Yeah, vomiting lyrics, exactly. If you come up with a chord progression, say, it's sometimes easier if you're a guitarist or a pianist, and you can have a chord progression and allow that chord progression just to bring you into somewhere for where you're going to write, and you know, and it's not always going to be good, especially when you're starting off. You just have to accept the fact that it's going to be quite poor for a long time, and just keep challenging yourself, keep bringing it forward, because if you don't keep doing it and you stop doing it, then it'll dry up like that. It's like when you learn to sing. Speaking of Ryan there, who was my teacher, who got me that grade 8, super vocal teacher he is. If you stop singing for a while, you'll notice that your abilities will start to decrease, and you have to work your way back up to getting them good again. And it's the exact same way with songwriting. If you stop doing it, you'll start to lose that flow or that energy that you're able to bring up and produce a song, you know. That's what I think. Yeah,
cool. Really good advice. So we'll finish up there, Rory, because I've taken up enough of your time. But thank you so much. I
enjoyed it. Thank you so much as well.
Yeah, no, it was really nice to kind of hear more about what you've been up to over the years, and what you're up to next. So Rory's EP is called Making Shadows. It's on all streaming platforms, I assume.
Yeah, it
Spotify
is, yeah.
And all the rest.
Yeah.
And the video that he was talking about, it's for a song called One and Only. And I would, if you don't know Rory's music, I would 100% just, after this finishes, go and check it out. His voice is just amazing, and his lyrics are just so interesting, and his band are so talented. So check him out, Rory.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Yeah, no bother at all, Rory. So thanks so much for listening, guys, and I will end the chat now. Okay, thanks a million.
No worries. Chat
Bye,
soon.
best of luck.
Bye.
See ya.